I like to try to find things in a person that they didn't even really know was there. Because you'll get much more excited about your ability than you will get excited about my ability. See, people can come and see me play and they'll get excited, you know, but you'll get much more excited when you find out you can do it too. And that's what the camp is about. Okay, you came there for me, but I'm here for you. You're going to leave there because of yourself. You're going to leave there thinking about, wow, I want to go play. You're not going to leave there talking about, man, I heard Victor play this, or I saw Steve Bailey do this, right? You go there wanting to do it. You know now that you can do it. You leave there finding out that Victor Wooten is a myth. And what's your name? Brian. And Brian is the reality. And that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. And so I'm trying to figure out within these 6 days, how can I do it? How I say I, but it's not really me. How can we do it? I spent a lot of time at the camp hitting people over the head with the fact that notes don't matter. Okay? I tell them all week that it doesn't matter the note you play. It's how you play it. It's how you play that note. And I'll go ahead and give you another little hint that I don't tell the people that I'm telling this to, is that's not really true. What I just said, notes don't matter. Of course it's not true. But I tell them it is all week. The reason being, and this is all my opinion of it, when I look at our musical teaching curriculum, okay, and I'm going to speak in generalities. None of these are concrete rules, and I could be wrong. Don't take, just because I'm so-called Victor Wooten, don't take every word I say as the gospel, right? You always make your own decisions. But when I look at how we learn music and what we learn, to me, at least 90% of it is based on notes. Pitches, scales, harmony, chords, how to solo through these changes, those changes. What notes did Jocko choose, why? And to me, the notes is only a small aspect. It's just, I shouldn't say small, but it's just one of many aspects that really make up music. And so one of the things we do is we break music down. And let's just say that we break music down into 10 parts. All right? And let's just say music is 10 parts. And I say, okay, notes is one of the parts. Give me 9 more. And we discuss it. And, you may come up with rhythm. You may come up with dynamics, technique. Whether you're going to hit the note long or short. You may come up with not playing the note, rest. That's a part of music. So we'll talk about it. People come up with all kinds of creative things. And then I'll say, okay, now it's time to solo, but no notes. Or I might say, okay, you can use one note, play one note. But and all these words we come up with, we write them on the board. I say, look at that board. And don't worry about number 1, notes. That's only one part of music. We want to focus on what we started calling 2 through 10, because we broke music down into 10 parts. 2 through 10 is what I want you to focus on. Okay, make me feel your music. Make me feel that solo. Make me interested. Keep me interested with 2 through 10. Okay, so they have to solo with only one note, focusing heavily on 2 through 10. Okay? So to me, 2 through 10 are like the neglected children of music. Notes is the star pupil child, gets all the attention. Technique, now for us bass players, technique is running a close second, We can do some triplet thumbs and some flashy tapping stuff. That's really cool too. But it's all that other stuff. And when you hear Christian, or you hear Steve, you hear anybody talk, they're talking about it. the feel, how the music feels. Christian told you guys, you won't get hired to do all this flashy stuff. You'll get hired to doom doom, to make it feel good. And how can you change? We're all using the same notes. In our style of music, there's only 12, right? But those 12 notes is taking up 90% of what we practice, what we study, what we learn, okay? And all this other stuff gets neglected. But if there's only 12 notes and everybody's using them, how come his notes sound better than when I play those notes? Okay, now this is the area that starts to get neglected. It's hard to find someone that is really going to talk to you about this because we're always approaching it from the notes side of it. And at the camp, we approach it from the other side of it, what we end up calling 2 through 10. And what happens is you realize you don't need as many notes. Because what's happening is we're trying to make a whole musical career out of 12 words, meaning 12 notes. There's only 12. How can I keep you interested using only those, focusing on 12? It's like having a language and you only know 12 words. You can't talk for that long, but that's what we try to do. And that's why when bass players start to talk, solo-wise, it sounds like we're stuttering. We're playing, it's just like, we just, and especially if the changes are going by fast, I can't follow it. It's like we're stuttering. It's because you're focusing on notes. Now imagine if you increased your vocabulary. It gets easier to talk. What I was trying to get people to do is build their vocabulary by realizing things they already know. You know about rest. No one teaches you how to use one. No one really teaches you how to play a rest. They teach you what the rests are, and they teach you how you don't play when there's a rest. You get my point? No one teaches you how to play a rest. And I say no one. Of course there are people who do, but on a generality, no one teaches you how to hit someone right in the face with nothing. Right? You can do it. That's why, if you put music on for a baby, he'll sleep. Turn the music off, he'll wake up. You hit him with nothing. You see the point? There are ways of doing that are beautiful. If you want to get someone to listen to you play, there are ways of doing it by not playing. So, and that's just talking about rest. You can do it with attack. There's a whole world dealing with attacking the notes. There's a whole world that deals with dynamics. There's a whole world that deals with, do you play the note long or do you play it short? I heard Christian talking about Ron Carter, accenting notes by playing one short, and it makes the long note after that sound different. Country music, bluegrass music is big on this. If I'm playing, like a lot of people play country or bluegrass and you think it's simple because you're only listening to the notes. The notes are simple for the bass part, but this to that is a totally different feel, right? And everywhere in between. And then, like for me, I have a habit, because I play solo a lot, I have a habit of putting that backbeat in there, right? Playing with a mandolin player, they don't want that, because that's what they do. I learned that the hard way from playing with Sam Bush. He's like, man, don't do that, That's his job. So I had to learn how to not do that, But when do I play short? When do I play long? That's a whole study. A thesis could be written on it. But nobody teaches it. We teach you scales. We teach you modes. We teach you how to break down chords and so that we can solo through them or come up with cool bass lines. We transcribe people's bass lines. And if we studied rhythm, just like if you take like a good keyboard piano solo, right? Anyone that's ever transcribed a piano solo will take it and they'll learn the notes, right? And you learn the rhythm too, but you study the notes. You and your teacher sit down and you say, now here's why he chose this note, right? Do the same thing with rhythm. Why did he play that rhythm? How is that rhythm working? How does this rhythm he played change the rhythm he played before? There's a study in every nuance of music. Music is so much bigger than what we give it credit for. you know. And so that's why I say 90% of the time we deal with music from a note standpoint, and which is why I hit them over the head with notes don't matter. Let's throw that out. And it's not till the end of the camp that I say, okay, notes really do matter, you know. But I don't approach the camp from this note standpoint because you're getting it everywhere else. Any book you buy is going to teach you scales, notes, you know, where the notes are on the staff, all this stuff. Notes, notes, notes. Right? So I make sure I have to tell them, don't throw that stuff out. Don't throw out that knowledge. The knowledge that we have gained or the knowledge that we have remembered here at this camp is to be added to what you have been learning. This is not to replace it. Okay? So all of a sudden they realize, whoa, my vocabulary is that much bigger. In a course of a few days, my vocabulary is that much bigger. Because now I'm not just focusing on one of these aspects of music. I'm focusing on at least 10 parts now because we only break it into 10 parts. We learned from the first night that there's more, right? But we break it down to 10. And now that we're looking at 10 parts of music, I realize I have my vocabulary is much bigger. I don't just have to focus on notes. And all of a sudden you start hearing people playing and they're leaving rest. They're repeating notes. They're letting notes ring, and you're going, whoa, you know, who are you? You're not the same guy that played the first night. A Flecktones rehearsal might go like this, you know, and we usually rehearse at sound check. We don't rehearse much off the road because we're on the road so much. Sound check is our rehearsal time. Bela may come in with the song, you know. He might say, hey, I wrote this Latin tune. You know, he may not even say that, but he may just start playing, you know. Right? And he'll just play it. He won't tell me what to play. He won't tell my brother, Future Man, what to play, or Jeff, or anyone. He'll just play. He might, right? Now, I could, right? I could approach it from a Latin type of vibe, right? But now this happens a lot with Flecktones tunes because the way Bela writes his chords is kind of weird stuff. A lot of times his lowest note won't be the root, so I may hear a totally different thing as the root. And it'll more than likely be something Bela never thought about. But that's the beauty of it. If he had told me what the root was, I would have probably never found those other notes. So we leave it open to see what people discover. Now, Bela, and this is a true story here, Bela came in with this Latin tune, started playing it, and my brother and I we just went to our background, and we heard it as, you know, right? And I just, especially at that time, all I was doing was thumping. And it turned into that. And it turned into the song it is now, the Sinister Minister, but it didn't start that way. And it may not have ever developed into that if Bela had walked in and told us, okay, you play this, you play that. And I believe that is one of the key ingredients to the Flecktones sounding like the Flecktones, is that we each get to bring a piece of the puzzle, you know? So we each get to bring our own style to the group. It is not one person dictating what everyone else plays. And I look at it as like us sitting down and talking. Maybe I'm going to pick the subject, but it's not a true conversation if I'm going to tell you what to say, you know? So I allow you to say what you want about this subject. It's my subject, right? But you have the freedom to talk. And that's the beauty of I think, the Flecktones and a lot of bands that work together for a long time. And I think a lot of bands that have their sound. You know, I find it hard to believe that Zauner was telling Jocko every note to play, or the Chick was telling Stanley or something like that, you know. I think that's beauty in any relationship. There's got to be freedom there also. Having trouble muting as you're going down the strings using the thumb technique.
Yeah, and they really ring when I do that.
Right, they really do. Here's a quick fix: is to use a hair tie, about 25 cents from Walgreens. That's a quick fix. And you know, some people might say it's cheating. To me, if it makes the music sound better, cool. You know, I recommend you learning how to do it with your hands, in case you get caught without that sometime, or you're jamming with someone else you want to sit in, play their bass. They don't have a hair tie. What are you going to do? You know, learn how to do it with your hands. Now, whenever I'm using my thumb as a pick, I just think about a guitar player using a pick. Now, guitar players have been using pick for years. How do they mute? All right? So when I think about a guitar player with a pick, all of a sudden it's an old technique that everybody can do. So it must not be that hard. So if I think of it that way, I'm closer to the answer already than if I think of, oh, it's a thumb technique. Victor Wooten invented it. You know, it's only been around for a couple of years. It's got to be hard. You know, if I think of it that way, I'm kind of far away from finding my answers. But I realize this is an old technique. Maybe doctored up and wearing different clothes or something, but it's an old technique. And guitar players have figured out how to mute, you know. So really, to me, those are the people that you want to go look for those answers for. One way that you can do it is just by kind of barring with your fretting hand. So if I'm going to play, right, as I switch to that string, I'm letting these fingers mute the strings. Right. These are muting. These are still muting. You see it? It could come, and that's all from there. So it's whatever. You know, I know some people who can use their back of their hand that way to do it. It's whatever works for you, but find a way to do it naturally, and then if you have to go an unnatural route, go for it. My brother Reggie sometimes uses a couple different hair ties, and he'll have one here, he'll have one here. I don't quite know his theory behind that. But I will say most of the things that I get, most of the things you see me do, had their birth in Reggie, this hair tie and everything. And I mean, there's so many things you can do with it. But you can put them over places, right? And I'll do that sometimes. So as I'm muting, right, you get that, all right? You know, you can put them in places. Whether Reggie's doing that, I don't know. But I do know that he does some tapping stuff that you probably saw him do, where he will tap in different places around the two mutes to get different sounds. Yeah, he's a strange one.
One thing I've always been so impressed with is you're so economical when you play, man. You never use, it seems like you're using so little energy when you play, man. Is that something that has always been the case, or did you actually learn how to just relax and just?
Well, yes, I learned it. He's talking about like what we call economy of motion. I used to always hear Bruce Lee talk about that, economy of motion. He's saying that it looks like I'm relaxed and just not moving a whole lot. That kind of came out of necessity. Though, you know, this whole thumb technique that you guys think I came up with came out of necessity, because I was trying to compete is not quite the right word, but keep up is a better word, with a lot of my friends that I was growing up with. Otil Burbridge, a great bass player named Keith Horn, another one, James Genus. There's another guy you guys don't know about yet, but you will, John Billings. We all lived near each other, and they always had these fast thumbs, meaning they could bounce. They could bounce like 3 times before they pluck a note. You know, like I was always thumb pluck, but they could go, right, and keep it going. You know, I was like, you know, it was cool too. But I never had a fast hand. But prior to that, I had, from Reggie, had learned how to go down and up, right? I had learned how to do that, right? So I started realizing that instead of going down twice and plucking, I could go down once, up, and pluck, right? Instead of, I could just do that, right? And I realized in doing that, man, that's less work. And I'm all for that, right? But I also, when I say it came out of necessity, when I started using these techniques, and I worked on the bouncing thing for a long time, all my brothers, and myself included, are very long-winded when it comes to playing. If somebody's going to take a solo, you're going to be there for a while, right? If you're a bass player or a drummer, you're going to wait a long time before it's your turn to solo. So like Christian was saying earlier, you're playing these fast-paced tunes. You just have to have the stamina to be able to keep up. Well, I didn't. So I came up, figured out some techniques where I didn't need much stamina. And that's what it came to. But the real necessity, what Christian is asking about, the real necessity came from wanting to do these things faster. Because all my brothers played fast, I heard Christian say earlier, you don't get hired because you can do this stuff. That's true. It's very, very true. But all my brothers learned to play fast. I wanted to learn to play fast. And in doing these techniques, I realized I could not take the Louis Johnson approach, the Thunder Thumbs approach, right? I couldn't take that approach. As much as I love Louis, I realized I couldn't be him and do that with the techniques I wanted to learn how to do. I realized that if I wanted my thumb to go down, right, up, and down again, if my thumb was way up here, it had a lot further to go than if my thumb was already there. So, right, and I realized also I could get just as good a sound from here than from here, right? So I just started to practice getting less motion, but the same output, right? So this came, right? And when I started doing that, I started realizing all this other stuff I could put in there if I wanted. If I was out here, it's hard for me. Whenever I start doing all these other things, I've got to slow myself. I've got to cut out the motion to do it, right? And it was motion from both hands, too. It was motion from both hands. It was like, let's say I'm going to do this open hammer pluck thing, where I go open, hammer, right? Let's say I'm going to pluck the octave. Open, hammer, pluck, right? I see a lot of people going, right? But the note I'm plucking is always the same. So it doesn't really need to move. So I could do it, right? And I can do that a lot longer than I can do that. Or this, I can't even play that way anymore, even though I used to, because I still am a huge Louis Johnson fan. And for a lot of times for me, when I'm a fan of someone, I imitate them until I learn what they do, and then I start bringing myself into that imitation. But so I started looking at both hands and everything and starting to learn how and where I could cut out motion. And another thing I'll add to my right hand, for longevity, I started focusing on what different muscles I could use to get these techniques. Because a lot of times I found my shoulder getting tired a lot as I'm playing. Especially coming up with my thumb, I found I started to work different muscles, and I started getting tired. So I started learning how to use that shoulder for weight. I started learning how to use more of my arm for weight, and I started learning how to use my wrist. So if my shoulder got tired, I could put more arm into it. If my arm was tired, I could put more shoulder or just wrist and things like that. So that's something you can experiment with. With all this flashy stuff that I get noted for doing, like playing, fast thumb patterns and things like that. My main goal is to make these things groove. It really is. Is to rely heavily on 2 through 10, or maybe 3 through 10, because number 2 I call technique. So I have to make it feel good. The time has got to be there, and then I need to use this in the right place and for the right reasons. The most obvious reason is to get your applause, but that may not always be the best reason for the music. So it's a lot to think about. But to answer your question now, one of the easiest ways is right, left, right, pluck. Okay, thumb, hammer, thumb, pluck. Right? Okay. So whatever technique you use to play one note, you could use it to play 2 notes. And you could use that to play 4 notes. In other words, you already have the technique to play a quintuplet. It's just speeding up what you have. But here are some simple ways that I use where I don't have to speed up. And it's by getting both hands involved. 1, 2, 3, pluck. 1, 2, 3, right? So right, okay. So maybe, right? If I do that, my hand doesn't have to move any faster than this. Right? See? Put them together, it sounds kind of fast. So this hand is only going, right? That doesn't sound fast in itself, but if I just put one hammer in between it, all of a sudden it sounds fast. Now use well and use correctly in the right place, it'll sound twice that fast. Okay? Another way to do it, let's say I want to use less motion. Instead of going down twice, I can go down, hammer, up, pluck. And I like doing that because this looks like this, right? So I can be playing. Right? And you're starting to hear these notes, but you can't see them. And that's the coolest thing. All right? You're like, how is he doing that? And I'm like, yeah, you don't know. But it's cool, right? Now you're doing it. It's like, my career is going to go away now because you got all the secrets. No, but really, these are just ways of getting more with less energy. And it's just by having more tools. It's like when I was talking about trying to solo with only notes. There's not enough notes for that to work. You got to apply 2 through 10. All of a sudden, when you have a bigger vocabulary with 2 through 10, you realize I don't need as many notes. Same thing here. When I have all this technique, I can use my thumb in both directions. I can use my fingers in both directions if I want. I can hammer notes with this hand. I have all these techniques. Then I don't just have to do this all the time. I can relax a little more because I have more tools, So that's one way, right? I could hammer twice if I wanted. Thumb, hammer, hammer, pluck. I could go down, up, pluck, pluck. Right? Getting all 4 out of this. Right? So that's another way of getting fast notes. And there are more ways. When I'm doing the fastest stuff, you will see the littlest motion. Like what I just did. Right? Right, because now you know what to look for. right? Right? That's as fast as I'm moving right there. Right, right. So if I'm doing that, right, then I do this. In the middle of that, if you're just focusing on this, you see this hand come and you hear 3 notes, right? So you just kind of have to know where to look to be able to see it, which is why a lot of people say they can't see it when I'm doing it. But again, it's no different than like a piano player. Piano players using all 10 fingers. The thing is, if you're only looking at one finger, you'd say, or one hand, you'd say, man, where are those other notes coming from? But now the bass is expanding into both hands. And it's always been there anyway. Performing is an art also. And I've been performing since I was a kid, and I know how to perform. I know the ins and outs of performance. Being a musician is one thing. Being a performer is a totally different thing. And I know that if there's people in the back of the house, back of the audience, and I'm just playing everything here, right? That may not work, may not translate. So I'll throw all kinds of other things in there, to make that translate a little more. And sometimes I'll get carried away. A good game of basketball is a great way to warm up before a gig. And I say that only half jokingly. If I'm on the road and I'm at a college or something, I'm looking for the gym. If I can get in a good game of basketball, then I'm going to usually have a pretty good gig. A lot of times, most of us will sit around and play and warm up our fingers, which is great. But for me, if I can warm up my whole body, I don't have to warm up my fingers. It just works that way for me. So it's like the way I think about it, like right now I haven't played in a while, and I can tell that things aren't working as easily as I would like them to. One way for me to do it would be to sit here and play a lot. The quick way would be for me to exercise and warm up my body. Right? Now this is just for me. I know what works for me. I got to play tomorrow, and I've got to play good. A lot of people are going to be there, and I want to make you guys happy. But I haven't played in a long time. But for me, I know I can play. I've been playing for 35 years, something like that. I know I can play. All I got to do is warm myself up. And that's not just physically, it's mentally also. Because I can get caught up, I can get mentally cold and get caught up in the fact that I'm having a hard time. And the fact that you guys are here, oh no, But I know I can play. I've been playing too long to not be able to play tomorrow. It doesn't mean I'm going to play great. It doesn't, but it's a better, for me, it's a better thought process than getting mentally cold, I'll call it, like physically cold, mentally cold and saying, oh no, what am I going to do? I better stay up all night and practice, For me, if I get myself feeling good, I'm going to play good. And that's what I mean by exercise. I warm up my whole body because we do play with our whole bodies, especially on acoustic bass. Anyone plays acoustic bass, it's not just fingers. You feel it in your arms get tired, you feel it in your shoulder gets tired, you start to feel it in your back, your butt, your feet, you need to sit down. All of a sudden you realize, whoa, my whole body is into this. So I like to exercise my whole body. I watch what I eat. I do meditate every day. And a lot of it, most of all, is I breathe. Steve Bailey likes to say, if you want to find out how important breathing is, just lay on the bottom of a pool for as long as you can. You realize it takes just a few seconds until you start to appreciate the beauty of breathing. If you're ever nervous, deep breaths will take most of it away instantly. Instantly. Deep breathing. Okay, anytime we're nervous, anytime we're shy, anytime we're angry, anytime we're in I'll call it an unnatural state, even though those states are very natural. If you pay attention, you'll realize you're breathing shallow. man, Victor, man, I've seen you play. Oh gosh, I don't know what to say. You know, you watch. It's like breathe, and all of a sudden you can talk. Okay, that'll help your playing. It'll help you relax. It'll help you warm up. Breathing is so important. Really watch what the good players do, and watch yourself even more. Watch yourself, because you'll learn the most from watching and really tearing yourself apart. And when I say tearing yourself apart, I should say picking yourself apart, because it's a positive thing, not a negative thing. I'm not saying tearing yourself down. You tear yourself apart so that you can see what's there. And really pay attention to what you do and what you don't do. You'll teach yourself more than anyone else will. Guaranteed, if you do it. To me, playing the bass is like speaking English. Did you ever get to a point in your life when you said, you know, I think I'm going to speak another language from now on? You know, it's just something that you do, that you don't really think about it much. I was fortunate enough to grow up that way with music. You know, I don't think I've ever thought yet that, wow, this is all I have to do is play music, keep playing music. I'll never have to work, you know. I never thought about that, because ever since I've been alive, the music was happening in the family. And pretty much I was being brought into that. So it's just something that I did, which was so natural to me, that I just didn't, I never thought much about it as something extra, as something. I never really thought of it as something that I did. You know, like I played sports. That was something that I did. You play sports, you know, you play soccer or baseball a couple months a year, then it's over. Music wasn't over. You know, it was always there, like eating, talking, you know, whatever. So, you know, and I realize how fortunate I am to have that type of upbringing. But I just try to now to still approach it that way, as natural as possible. But, you know, when I was a kid, I thought I was going to be a fireman or a policeman like all the other kids, a doctor, you know. I didn't think I was going to grow up and be a musician, because I never thought of musicians as something different, you know. It was just something we did, you know. It's like growing up on the farm. You don't think you're going to grow up and be a farmer. You know, you just know how to farm. You might grow up and be a farmer, but as a kid, that's not what you're thinking about. It's too close to home. Okay, let's think about music as a language, right? How did you talk when you were 4 years old? Who did you sound like? You probably said the same things your mom said, your dad, your brothers or sisters if you have any. You probably didn't realize it, but sounded a lot like them. I bet your parents were just saying, gosh, that's me, you know, because you're only 4. You don't have your own voice yet. How did you get your own voice talking? Right. And you kept talking until, and talking has become so natural to you that it is not something extra that you go and do every once in a while, and that you need lessons and I have to study this guy or that guy. It's just something that you do. Once music becomes something that you just do because you enjoy it and it's natural, you have your own voice. But I'll tell you the better answer and the more truthful answer is that you do have your own voice already. You know, you just don't realize it. But I guaranteed if we both get on the stage, we won't sound alike. You're going to sound like you, and I'm going to sound like me. You know, and that's the beauty of it all. You know, but learn what I do. Learn what Christian does. Listen to the words we say, and then run it through your own filters, and keep what you like, and the stuff you don't like, put aside. Don't throw it out. Put it aside, because remember, you're only 4. Put it aside. It might come back to you later. Right? So just keep doing what you're doing. Don't worry about it. The things I'm struggling with sometimes is just being able to get outside of how I play. This really comes back to what he's asking me. You know? I mean, I have that same struggle, and I got to do the same stuff I'm telling all you guys. I'm not above what I'm telling you. You know? It's another thing that I'll do to challenge myself is how would Victor Wooten not play? And I'll try to play that way, you know. But there are techniques I'm working on. A lot of the thumb technique I'm still working on. Being able to play jazz, fast bebop, staccato trumpet lines with, with this some of this technique because it's a new sound, hadn't been done. Um, but also my theory, I don't think is that good, especially jazz theory. I want to get better at that, and I want to get better at playing bebop. So I'm listening to that. I'm looking at bebop as a language, you know, and so I'm playing it all the time, records and things like that, and listening to it. So I start to pick up that accent. Like if you hang around Southerners or you hang around people in Boston, you start to pick up that talk without trying because you're hearing it all the time. And to me, that's one of the best ways of learning the feel of a style of music, learning the nuances. Just play it all the time, listen to it all the time, when you're awake or when you're asleep. So I'm doing that, trying to learn the theory. So those are a couple of the things. But, mostly getting outside of the way I play. I've heard myself so long, that sometimes I get really tired of it. How often do I transcribe other solos? Not a whole lot anymore. Um, but growing up all the time, I did it a lot. I learned everything I could get my hands on from Stanley, Jocko, Larry Graham, and Bootsy. Everything I could get my hands on. And I would learn it. But one of the cool things that got me to play the way I play now is I didn't only transcribe bass solos or trumpet solos or sax solos. I transcribed drum solos on the bass. And when I say transcribe, it just means I learned them. I didn't sit down and write them out. I never did that. But I used to learn drum solos. I was very into Billy Cobham, the power of the drums. I wanted my bass solos to be powerful like a drum solo. How could I do that? So I started learning drum solos, and I needed new technique to pull off these fast things that drummers were doing. But I realized drummers only using two hands, to get all this fast stuff. I should be able to do it with my two hands. So I started, experiment with beating on the bass, doing more techniques to get the power to come out, And so I did a lot of transcribing of drum solos. Tony Williams was another power hitter. And so I don't do it a whole lot anymore, even though I still do. Sometimes I'll hear something. A lot of the times for me now, it'll be a piece of a solo. Like I might hear something that I just say, oh, man, I love that. That is great. How did he do that? What's he doing? And I'll learn that piece and learn how to integrate it into my playing.